class. I said I would post a quick video on reading and writing files, and voila, I have just done it, or I'm doing it now actually. So, there are several ways for you to read and write files. So let's mention one of them, and I'll show you where you can go to get some more. I'll post the link as well. Now, we'll have to import some stuff for this. I've actually got probably more imported here than I really need, truth be told. And the reason for that is, I was playing around with several of these things. So let me just erase some of these. But just make a file. Mine was called, I believe, read write data. And we'll import several things at the top here. Uh, I've got buffered reader, and it is needed because I will get red lines if I don't have that. Buffered writer, uh, file input output, file not found exception, which means you tried to open a file that doesn't exist. We've got file reader, file writer, and then we've got input output exception. So the website I went through, I just picked the one I kind of liked the most, tweaked it a little bit, and here it is. So the main, you're going to have to add throws IO exception, input output exception. That means something happened when you were trying to read write. Now if I don't have that and it throws the exception, my computer crashes. I think we've talked about try catches before, but we're going to need a try catch for this. So I've got this first line here. System.getProperty user.home. Basically, this is going to put the text file in your NetBeans directory. Wherever this program file is, that's where it's going to go. I named mine save.txt. That's what it's going to be called. And then this is just the path to get to that. You could, of course, put in C colon blah, blah, blah instead of directory. Just actually type in an actual path if you wanted to put it somewhere specific. But for this will just put us in the folder we're currently in. So I come down and I want to write a file. So I got a little text message here, a little print up that says that I'm about to write save.txt. And we're going to try to use this buffered writer. You see it's relatively long and funky. But I'm going to try to write it to that location, which is the NetBeans save.txt. So I have a string. Fuzzy pickles is all I need. And then I buffered writer dot write. I write that content, and that content's going to get written to the path that I selected. And I have this input output exception here, which I could put a little print statement there. Basically, this is an if you can do this, do it. If there's a crash, else do this instead. And I just don't have anything printing. I have some little text here. Done writing. Now I'm going to read it and display it on the screen. So I try to read it using the buffered reader right here. The path that I chose earlier. I take a string from the buffered reader and I read line. And I say, while line is not null, meaning the file's empty, print it. And then basically I'm going to keep doing this. Line equals buffered reader dot print line, read line, read line, read line. So if I have multiple lines, it'll just read all the lines in. I just have one in mind, so I'll read one. And of course I have a file not found exception, meaning it's trying to read it, but it didn't find out, it couldn't find a file there. So if I run this, writing file, save.txt, we're done writing. We start reading, and I got this little break here. And what it's reading from the file is fuzzy pickles is all I need, and then it's done reading. So as you can see, it wrote the text of the file, and then it read it. Boom, just like that. And of course it put it into a string, which if I wanted to read each line into a bunch of different variables, this would be a simple way if you had like the program we just did. You wanted to save what level the guy was and what his name was and all that stuff. You could just write it out into a text file. Now, of course, that's not very secure. Anybody can go and open up my text file. There it is, save.txt. Fuzzy Pickles is all I need, and change stuff. Delete, swap around. I've now got 1,000,000,000 health, which again isn't that secure. But I mean, if you wanted it to be more secure, you could do a little bit of Googling. I think there are binary saving. You basically encrypt it when you save it and decrypt it. Of course, we've talked about encryption, decryption. You could encrypt it and decrypt it yourself in your program, making it much, much more difficult, but still not impossible. Actually properly saving it and encoding it would be better in binary and whatnot. Now, if you want to try this yourself, maybe one of the other different routes, there's at least 4 or 5 on this website. I'll include the link along with this video. You can go down and it explains the different types of readers and what they do. File writer, buffered writer, dot, 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 dot. And then, of course, you have your actual code examples. Now, these code examples require that you put them in the main, 1. 2, you'll have to import things like that. Most of the time, you can just kind of click over here and add import, and then you're good. But there are several different versions. There's file reader and writer right here. There is, and of course there's advantages and disadvantages using all of them. Some of them it doesn't really matter. I used buffered reader. And if you notice, it's still using the file reader and file writer. But I've used buffered reader and writer before, so I picked that as opposed to the others. There is file output stream, file input stream. And then, of course, buffered output, buffered input, and they talk a little bit about that. And then a little bit more code if you want to play around with all this to see. Now, if you want to look at like saving it so people can't just freely edit it, you can do probably a couple of quick Googles. And once you've have played with this enough to get kind of used to it, that's really not that big of a push compared to this. So I'll include this link with the video, and you can come here and look at it all you want. And of course, if you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to let me know. And again, this will save it in ta-da, your NetBeans projects file. So, if you have any questions or anything, be sure to let me know.